Hello Wolfpack, quick little Bitcoin update today. I know that, for example, one of the interesting things that's going on in the market right now is this shorter term pattern. There's also a bit of a longer term pattern if we zoom out to something like the 4-hourly chart and zoom back so we can encompass kind of the last few months. We have a longer term downtrending structure, which will be interesting to see where that breaks. I also have some predictions of how I think the structure is going to play out and how it's going to look like as seen in this chart that I'm going to go over in this video. On top of that, I'm going to go over the 4-year cycle, of course, like I usually do. And then I'm also going to talk about the interest rates decision, right? Because the interest rates decision, which is quite major, will bring volatility in the market, and that's going to be happening in just over 24 hours. I think about 36 hours from the time this video is going to be published, there will be the interest rates decision in the USA. Now, there's lots of speculation as to what that decision will encompass, whether it will be a 75 basis point hike, whether it will be a 50 basis point hike, and I think we need to discuss some of that and the effect that could have on the market. But without further ado, let's get into the video here. So, firstly, I do want to talk about this, right? Because this is essentially how I think the next few months are going to pan out. And this is based vaguely on the 4-year cycle theory. Now, for those of you who don't know, and I think the way to start this video might be just to say it straight off the bat, I don't think Bitcoin's going to bottom out until Q4. I'm not entirely sure where Bitcoin will bottom out in Q4, but I think I have a pretty good idea of where it's going to be, right? Because of the fact that I don't think Bitcoin's going to bottom out until Q4, I think it's highly unlikely that we'll hold the 200-week SMA because we're already at that level. And Q4 is obviously 3.5 months away, and with many more rate hikes to come in the future, which is the predominant thing that's dragged the market down, by the way, I just see it as highly doubtful that we maintain this current price level for 3.5 months until we're suspected to bottom from the 4-year cycle theory. So what do I think is going to happen if that's the case? If I think we're not going to bottom out here, and if I think we're not going to bottom out until Q4, what is it going to look like? Well, I think it will look something like this. Now, obviously, this is a very rough estimation, and it can definitely look entirely different to this, but this is just a scenario that I just whipped up off the top of my head. Essentially, we've had a massive sell-off here, and so it would make sense to see some sort of bounce, maybe up to the 28K support zone for a resistance support flip, and then a drop back down to 200, some consolidation for 200, a drop down to the 300, wick up to the all-time high in 2017, and then finally a bottom out between October and December. Look, really rough. I'm not even going to call it a prediction. It's just an observation as to what something could look like. And that's based vaguely off previous cycles as well, what the drops usually look like in previous cycles. We also have to understand that we've never actually dropped below 200 week before. Right, and that's a fact. We've never dropped below 200 week SMA on a weekly candle before. And so us doing it puts us in a territory in which we're highly just kind of in uncharted territory. We don't know what's going to happen exactly. But why do I think we're not going to bottom out until Q4? Well, one of the reasons is the 4-year cycle theory. Okay, the 4-year cycle theory is a very, very clear and concise date range trend that I used to predict the top in November, and it's predicting the bottom will be around November this year. I'm just going to say Q4 because there's room for error. We're at 30 days on each side, which is a month on each side, which means anywhere between October and December, we should very likely be seeing the bottom for Bitcoin. Obviously, it's not October and December yet. Right, based on the 4-year cycle theory, we shouldn't be bottoming out yet. The 4-year cycle doesn't give us an indication as to where the bottom will be. We're kind of left to our own devices in that regard. But another thing supporting the Q4 bottom would be the economic situation, the broader global economic situation, particularly the economic situation in the USA, which predominantly drives the Bitcoin market. Okay, like it or not, and I know some people don't like to hear this, like it or not, Bitcoin is not an individual acting asset. It's not individual, right? It's a risk-on asset. It acts with the traditional markets. Of course, it's risk-on, but it acts with the traditional markets, right? It kind of goes wherever the S&P 500 goes. And people hate to hear that because they think that goes against everything that Bitcoin wants to be. And it does. It really does. It's meant to be an individual asset. But the fact of the matter is, people who hold Bitcoin, generally speaking, hold other assets, okay? And when other assets go down, they're acting in accordance with that and they're selling their Bitcoin. And Bitcoin has a very, very heavy correlation to the S&P 500. And given the fact that interest rates are so low right now, interest rates right now are 1%. Okay, 1%. And when those rate hikes started, okay, that was what was the tipping point for the S&P 500. When the rate hikes started beginning and when there was speculation about rate hikes starting to begin, we started to top out in the S&P 500. That's the only reason we topped out, okay? We're at 1% interest rates. The bond yields at this point, the bond yields are suggesting we're actually where we should have been in terms of interest rates in 2007, right? November 2007. In November 2007, interest rates were all the way up here at 5.25%, right? We're currently at 1%. The bond yields are telling us that interest rates should be at levels we saw in November 2007 at 5.25%. we're currently all the way down here at 1% interest rates. It just gives you an idea of how undervalued interest rates are and about how many potential interest rate hikes there need to be. Now, it doesn't mean it needs to go all the way up to 5% again. You know, the government, the Federal Reserve might have changed their plan in accordance to combating inflation than they would have 2007. Now, interest rates generally trend down over a period of time, but let's be real, it certainly means it needs to go a lot higher than it is now. And given the fact that the interest rate decisions were the first things that kind of brought down traditional markets, we can expect more interest rate hikes bring the markets down further, and hence we can expect Bitcoin to go down further. And the interesting thing about this, and the reason why I like the Q4 prediction, is because the Federal Reserve have said on many occasions now that they plan to have most of the rate hikes done by Q4, right? The end of Q4, they plan to have most of the rate hikes done, right? The 4-year cycle theory is predicting a bottom in Q4, okay? And I think right now it's way too early to bottom because the rate hikes are still coming in. Now, if the rate hikes slow down by Q4, then the 4-year cycle theory might have actually some grounds in reality here in predicting a Q4 bottom, and we might actually be able to reverse towards the end of this year and the start of next year, right? So it makes a lot more sense, given the macro situation, given the macro environment, that a Q4 bottom would be more likely. If we bottom out right now, to be honest with you, the only way we'd bottom out right now on Bitcoin is if Bitcoin depegged from traditional markets, okay? And that's reality, and that's what it is, and people don't like to hear that. But I'll say it again, the only way Bitcoin can bottom out right now, right? The only way the Bitcoin bottom can be in, even if we drop down to 18K next week, it's the date that matters. It's the time that matters. The only way the Bitcoin bottom can be in is if it depegs from the traditional markets. It starts acting individually, which is something it's never ever done before. And to predict something like that, a massive shift in the market, is a very risky prediction to make, and it's not really based in any logic because you can't use data to predict something like that. As of right now, the correlation coefficient with Bitcoin and the S&P 500 is very similar to what it was last year. And so to predict that all of a sudden, bang, click of your finger, Bitcoin's just going to act individually, doesn't really make sense, right? And so logically speaking, it makes a lot of sense for us to bottom out in Q4, and it doesn't really make much sense for us to bottom out now. Now, this is something you're going to hear me repeat over and over again until the bottom actually comes in. And I'm so sorry for being repetitive and boring, but that's just what it is. And people need to know that, and they need to understand that the bottom is very unlikely to come in until Q4, at least in my opinion anyway, and at least the way I see the market. Now, where will the bottom be when it does come in? Probably, honestly, very hard to say. Probably around 13.5K to 11.5K. I've talked about that before. I'm not going to talk about it again. Maybe on the 300-week SMA, which could be at 18K. Any one of those two regions, I think, is likely. I don't think we're going to be holding the 200-week SMA due to reasons that we established at the start of this video. But I do want to bring up quickly something else that's interesting about Bitcoin. And that is going to be this shorter term structure. Now, this structure may have broken out by the time I even post this video. It's a very tight range, right? We're in about a 200 to 300 USD range here in this bearish pennant formation. Now, it is a bearish formation, and so given the fact that it's a bearish formation, if we take a measured move, sorry, I'm kind of a bit tired. Measured move from the top of the flagpole formation, apply that to the breakout zone. You can see this is actually targeting very low prices. Now, do I think we're going to go 14K within the next 2 days? No, not at all. And I think that this is actually very preliminary to call this as bearish pennant formation. And I think, honestly, given the structure of the market right now and how much we've dropped, this actually is probably equally as likely to break upwards towards like 28K. And, I think it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next 36 to 48 hours, especially with the interest rates decision coming along, which will bring volatility in the market. We're probably going to see a bounce. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a bounce. Then again, hard to predict with this kind of thing because we don't know exactly where the interest rates decision is going to take us. But just expect volatility either up or down. If you see a pump upwards, and this is the main point I want to make, if you see a pump upwards on Bitcoin, don't be like, oh no, I missed out on the macro bottom. No, it's very unlikely that any kind of bounce at this point that remains below 32.6K would result in anything. I think we can even bounce all the way up to 32.6K, to be honest with you. It still wouldn't mean anything. Maybe 28.6 would be the highest. I don't know. But it still wouldn't mean anything. Given the macro environment right now, there's very little chance that Bitcoin has bottomed out without an absolutely miraculous turn of events. It would definitely make sense given the TA. We had a massive support level here at 28.6. We haven't even retested it yet. It would make sense for us to come back up here at some point, retest it, and then reject down with something like that, and then consolidate for a bit more, especially given the fact that we have this downtrending yellow line. this major downtrending yellow line, which is our major support line, resistance line, sorry. If we bounce back up to that, that would be at around 28.6, and then we see a rejection from there. Maybe one day we break out, we do something like this, and then we come back down later in the year. I really wouldn't be opposed to a scenario in which we see some rapid bounces and consolidation that kind of fakes everyone out of the market over the next couple of months here. It really wouldn't surprise me at all. I think a lot of people are overly bearish right now. Even me, I'm bearish, but I think in terms of the broader market, I think everyone is kind of bearish right now, and I think we do need to see a dead cat bounce of some sort, or at least some consolidation to fake a few more people out so we can drop down further, within the next few months. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if we see bounces. Don't be too scared if we see bounces. It's very unlikely that you will miss the macro bottom if we do bounce up here. And by the way, let's just clear up this expectation people might have. Even for myself, it's very unlikely we're actually going to catch the macro bottom. And the reason being is because it's not natural trading and it's not natural analysis to try and catch bottoms and tops. What traders generally do and what analysts generally do is they catch the trend reversal points. Okay, so it's going against the premise of trading to try and catch the macro bottom, and hence it's very unlikely that it's going to happen, even for myself, right? Now, it's possible, and I think I've got a solid chance of doing it, but what's more logical, in my opinion, is actually catching the trend reversal point. And the trend reversal point is going to be stemming from the 50-week SMA, the red line that I've just brought up on the screen here. That is the trend reversal point, right? Once we break the 50-week in all previous cycles, we've entered a bull market. And so once we break the 50-week, that's when you should be entering with your most of your position. Catching the macro bottom is all well and good, but what if it doesn't stop bottoming out, right? What if it just goes down lower, right? Who's saying that Bitcoin's going to survive this recession? I think it is, but who's here, guaranteeing that for us? And that's why catching the macro reversal point, although you're buying in higher, is actually much more of a logical move to make, in my opinion. But it's fun to speculate on the bottom. I'm personally not going to put my whole life savings into the Bitcoin bottom. I actually don't have enough faith in Bitcoin to do that. I do have a lot of faith in Bitcoin, but as a trader, it's much more logical to catch the reversal point. I mean, that's what you're meant to do as a trader if the risk-reward ratio is relevant. Just be aware that it's quite unlikely you'll catch the macro bottom. Don't hate yourself too much if you do. Very, very few people actually do buy the macro bottom. But let's try and do it. Let's try and get as close as possible, obviously. I think, as I said before, I think if I had to guess, if I had to speculate based on this preliminary data we have, probably around 13.5k to 11.5k, or the alternate scenario would be an 18k bottom on the 300-week SMA. Again, very hard to tell at this point, but I can be sure that it's most likely going to be in Q4, no earlier than Q4. I'd be very surprised if it was. So with all of that said, I do want to look at a few things before we end the video. Firstly, we've got Wolves of Crypto VIP. Go to my homepage on my YouTube channel, click the join button, and you can get access for just 28 USD a month, an absolute bargain. Exclusive Altcoin Trading Signals, one set up every second day, prioritized reply to comments, 2-hour video market psychology, and weekly access to a newsletter. Name one VIP account, one VIP channel that's going to give you 4 separate, very valuable pieces of kind of exclusive content access for the price of 28 USD a month. An absolute steal. The Altcoin Trading Signals have paid off massively in the last week or so. As you guys would know, we had a massive drop in the market. We had many, I think 5 or 6 short positions set up that printed over 200% profit on 1x leverage, 2,000% profit on 10x leverage there. Massive, massive profits in a period of 5 days. I know one of my members in particular made $32,000 in that drop. And that's just for $28 a month worth of payment. $28,000 for $28 a month, or $32,000 for $28 a month. You're not going to get any better than that. I'm not saying you're going to make 32 grand, obviously, but it's just an example of how this is kind of affecting our VIP members here. So go ahead and check it out. And obviously, if you don't want to, sure thing. Another thing you can do, become a trader, a 10-unit course, the Crypto Academy. Myself and Megawell Crypto have created this course in order to teach people how to trade, especially given the fact that we're in a bear market where lots of things are boring, not many people are trading. This is to teach you to give you the skills on how to trade. Because in a bull market, right? Yeah, you need TA experience, but generally speaking, in a bull market, you buy anything and it goes up, right? In a bear market, it's very different. In a bear market, if you want to make money, you need to have the knowledge, you need to have the skills, and you can actually profit using all the information we give you in this course. Go ahead and check it out. Send us an email here to get more information and we'll send you a preview of what the course actually looks like as well if you're interested via this email address here. And then finally, the BitGet Exchange. Now, they've recently released grid trading, which is interesting. You can create kind of your own trading bot if you're interested in that kind of thing. Regardless, they also have spot and futures. The main thing I like about this exchange is the futures, because I can't actually trade futures on Binance due to my location. Also, futures fees on BitGet are much lower than that of Binance. Megawell Crypto recently released a Twitter post in which he said he traded $3.5 million worth of volume in the month of, I think, May, and he paid $13,000 in fees on Binance. If he traded on BitGet, he would have only paid, I think, $3,000 worth of fees. So crazy discounts on fees you're getting on BitGet, and also if you sign up using the referral link, you're also getting access to over $4,000 in potential rewards for completing some tasks there. So go ahead and check out all three of those things. And without further ado, I'll end the video there. Leave some questions below. It's going to get pretty boring in the market. I can kind of sense it already past the interest rates times. Leave some questions. I'll answer them in the next video to keep the videos relevant, keep the videos hot and on topic. And I'll thanks for watching, stuttering, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.